I realized that I don't have to be perfect. All I need to do is show up and enjoy the messy, imperfect, but beautiful journey of my life. Kerry Washington. There comes a point in life when people suddenly feel exhausted from trying to be good enough in the eyes of the world. We edit every word, hide the cracks in our souls, and force ourselves to be strong, successful, positive, and perfect, to the point of losing our natural ability to breathe. Each day feels like a prolonged performance where humans fear being seen in their most authentic state. But then, after many tiring chases, after an endless ideal, many slowly realize a profound truth. It is not about giving up, but the moment the soul stops warring with itself. We are often obsessed with perfection because we believe that only when perfect are we worthy of love and recognition. They try to hide their sadness, hide their failures, and hide even the most fragile parts of themselves. But the more they strive to be a flawless version, the emptier they feel inside. Perfection is like a beautifully polished mask, but wearing it for too long makes a person forget their true face. And the most heartbreaking thing is, sometimes it is the flaws, the clumsiness, and the stumbles that make a person most relatable and memorable. Life was never meant to operate as a straight path. It is more like a wild garden. There are blooming flowers, withered leaves, long rainy days, and also mornings where the sunlight is so beautiful, it softens the heart. If we keep waiting for everything to be perfect before allowing ourselves to be happy, we will miss almost the entire beauty of existence, because the most memorable moments often appear in the midst of imperfection. A burst of laughter on a terrible day, a hug after an argument, or standing up after a wound that seemed insurmountable. Presence is an art that many have lost. They live, but their minds are always elsewhere, regretting the past or fearing the future. They eat without tasting, love without truly opening their hearts, and exist without ever touching life. Meanwhile, enjoying the journey doesn't mean life has to be easy. It means that even in the middle of chaos, one can still find something to be grateful for. A hot cup of tea late at night, the sound of wind through the window, someone who stays by your side after dark days. Sometimes, happiness is not something grand, but simply the ability to recognize the small things that are still present. It is not when people become perfect, but when they stop hating the imperfect parts of themselves, when they can look at the scars on their soul without shame, when they understand that they don't always have to be strong to be loved, and when they are gentle enough to tell themselves, I am still learning, still growing, and that is enough. After all, life doesn't hand out medals to those who live most perfectly. What it truly offers are the deeply human moments where we are allowed to cry, to be wrong, to love, to be healed, and to live true to the most authentic beat of our hearts. It doesn't matter how long you live on earth, how much money you accumulate, or how much attention you receive. What matters is the amount of positive energy you have radiated in life. Amit Ray. There are people who walk through life like a great wind, noisy, flashy, and making everyone turn their heads. They possess money, fame, and power, the things society often uses to measure the value of a life. But then time still silently covers every medal with dust, fades every applause, and ultimately, what remains in the memory of others is not how rich they were, but how they warmed someone's heart. Many spend their whole lives chasing recognition, as if the eyes of others were oxygen for their soul. They build a perfect image, trying to prove themselves through property, status, or the number of admirers. The more they try to fill themselves with external things, the emptier they become inside. For the satisfaction from material things is like fireworks in the night, brilliant but short-lived. Meanwhile, the positive energy a person creates is like the morning sun, silent but capable of nurturing life for a long time. There are people who are not famous at all, but just by appearing, the atmosphere becomes softened. A word of encouragement at the right time, a sympathetic look, a hand held during days of despair. Sometimes those small things save a soul from the depths, without the giver even knowing it. That is the most invisible but enduring form of power. Money can buy attention, but it cannot buy the sense of peace that a kind soul brings. Fame can make people remember you for a while, but the warmth in how you treat life is what makes them remember you long after you are gone. Humans are essentially energy transmission stations for each other. A person full of resentment can make an entire room feel heavy, while a person living with gratitude can light up the spirits of many around them. It's worth noting that positive energy doesn't lie in always smiling or always acting strong. It lies in the ability to maintain a benevolent light even when you have walked through the darkness yourself. One who has been hurt but chooses not to hurt others, that is the rarest beauty of the soul. When life comes to an end, people are not truly remembered by the numbers in their bank account or the fame of their name. They are remembered by the feeling they leave in the hearts of others. Some leave, and the world remains almost unchanged. But there are also those who leave, leaving a void, as if a lamp has just been extinguished from the rooms of many hearts. Because ultimately, the greatest value of a life lies not in how much we have owned, but in how much we have made the life around us lighter, kinder, and full of hope. You were born into this world to achieve the best version of yourself, to live your life purpose fully, and to do so courageously. Steve Maraboli. There are people who live an entire lifetime, but have never truly lived for themselves. They grow up within the expectations of their family, walk within the standards of society, and gradually lose the deepest voice within their soul. They are like actors so immersed in someone else's script that they forget what their true face looks like. But humans were not born just to exist as a silent shadow in the crowd. This life is not a place to fall asleep in mediocrity, but a journey to discover and perfect one's soul. The best version of a person is not the richest, most famous, or most perfect version in the eyes of the public. It is the version that lives true to its authentic nature, without fear. A person can fail many times, but still be admirable if they live sincerely by their ideals. On the contrary, some possess everything, but their eyes remain empty because they have never truly understood what they want. The need for recognition becomes so great that they trade both their personality and dreams for the approval of others. But that approval is like an addictive drug. The more one depends on it, the further one drifts from oneself. Life purpose is not always something grand, like changing the world. Sometimes it's simply becoming a kind person in a cold era, bringing light to a few people around you, waking up every day with the feeling that you are living, not just existing. The most terrifying thing is not failure, but living a life without ever trying to touch your true potential. Like a seed that never dares to crack its shell for fear of pain, it will never know it could become an entire forest. But to live true to one's purpose, a person needs courage, a very different kind of courage from the outward strength society often praises. It is the courage to walk when the path is not yet clear, the courage to let go of things that no longer belong to you, the courage to face loneliness when choosing to live differently from the majority. And sometimes, the greatest courage is daring to believe that you deserve a life larger than the limits once imposed on you. Life always finds ways to test humans with failure, hurt, and doubt. There are days when we feel as small as a speck of dust in a vast world, but it is in those moments that true character is formed. Diamonds do not emerge from ease. They are created under the horrific pressure of time. Humans are the same. The strongest version is often born after times of seeming collapse. When looking back at the journey traveled, what brings a person peace is not that they lived like anyone else, but that they were brave enough to become themselves. Because the most beautiful meaning of a life is never being remembered by the whole world, but when you can smile and say, I have lived wholeheartedly with this life, with my dreams, and with my true self. Challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them. Just find a new way to stand. Oprah Winfrey. There are times in life when a person feels as if they are standing in the middle of a landslide. Every principle once believed in suddenly becomes fragile. Every plan once drawn suddenly turns to ash after a fierce wind. We call it a challenge, as if it were an adversary born to cause us pain. But the deeper truth is much more profound. Challenges do not come to destroy humans, but to force them to discover a new anchor within their own souls. Pain is not always a sign of the end. Sometimes it is just the sound of an old self cracking so that a stronger version can be born. Humans often resist adversity instinctively. When pushed to the brink by life, we grit our teeth and resist, like a tree trying to hold onto yellowed leaves in the middle of a storm. But the more we resist change, the more the inner self is exhausted. What makes many people collapse is not the event itself, but the obsession with keeping everything exactly as it was. Humans always want to take refuge in the familiar, even if that place has rotted away. Challenges appear like a cold but necessary hand, pulling us away from the old chair of safety to learn to stand on more mature legs. Look at the river. It does not fight the rock blocking its way. It is not angry. It is not desperate. It just quietly changes direction, soft but persistent. And eventually, that very softness wears down even the mountain stone. True strength does not lie in screaming against adversity, but in the ability to adapt without losing the light within oneself. There are those who, after a breakdown, become bitter, but there are also those who, after a breakdown, become deeper and gentler. The difference lies in how they see the challenge, as a sentence or as a gift in disguise. Every event is silently asking us a question. If the old ground disappears, do you dare to create a new ground for yourself? And strangely enough, many of humanity's greatest abilities only appear when they have nowhere else to cling. It is in the darkest days that humans learn to listen to intuition, learn patience, and learn gratitude for the simple things they once took for granted. Challenges are like the fire that bakes pottery. Without going through the heat, clay remains just clay. But once it passes through, it becomes something with form, with value, with the capacity to hold both water and flowers. Don't be quick to curse the difficult days. Maybe life hasn't turned its back on you. Maybe it is just teaching you a new way to stand firm, deeper, more alert, and much stronger than before. The key to finding happiness in this life is realizing that the only way out is through. Finding happiness in simple joys, mastering the art of living fully in every moment. Brianna Wiest. Humans spend most of their lives chasing a concept called happiness. The more we chase it, the further away it gets. We imagine happiness lies at a milestone ahead, a large enough sum of money, a perfect love, an admirable position, or a day when everything finally settles down. But life does not operate like a guaranteed contract. It is more like the ocean, always moving, always unstable, always with unexpected waves, appearing just when we think we are at peace. Humanity's greatest pain often comes not from circumstances, but from clinging. We want to keep youth from fading, want feelings not to change, want everything to happen exactly as we expect. But life is essentially a constant flow. The more we try to hold on, the more the soul becomes tired, like a hand trying to grasp water tightly. Detachment does not mean being cold or escaping emotions. It is the ability to walk through all fluctuations without letting oneself be submerged by them. It is when people learn how to look at joy without being too greedy and look at sadness without despair. A detached mind is like a wide sky. Dark clouds may roll in, but they cannot make the sky disappear. Strangely enough, moments of true happiness are often very small. It could be the smell of morning coffee drifting through the window, the sound of rain falling on a quiet night, the peaceful look of a loved one, or the feeling of taking a deep breath after long, exhausting days. But modern people easily miss these things because they always live in a state of waiting until. Wait to succeed before resting. Wait to be sufficient before enjoying. Wait for the future to stabilize before allowing oneself to be happy. And so they lose the present, the only thing that truly belongs to them. Humans are very easily trapped between two dimensions of time, regretting the past and fearing the future. Few truly live in the moment that is happening, but the art of living fully is pulling the mind back to the present, where life is breathing in the most ordinary things: a slow meal, a sincere conversation, an unhurried afternoon. Sometimes these are the pieces that create a life worth living. Happiness is not an explosive state that lasts forever. It is the ability to feel the fragile beauty of each moment before they pass. In the end, life does not require humans to win everything to be allowed peace. It only asks us to learn to be softer with ourselves, let go of invisible burdens, and be mindful enough to realize that perhaps the most precious thing was never located anywhere far away. It is always here, in the heartbeat, in the breath, in this very moment. When reflecting on life, remember this: no amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. Humans are the only strange creatures that can imprison themselves with time. The body lives in the present, but the mind wanders between things lost and things yet to come. Some spend their whole youth agonizing over a word spoken years ago, a wrong decision, a broken relationship. They carry guilt like a stone tied to their chest, imagining that the more pain they feel, the more they can fix the past. Meanwhile, there are also those who live in constant worry about tomorrow, as if by thinking incessantly they could control fate. Guilt is often disguised in the form of responsibility. People think that if they keep blaming themselves, they will redeem the mistakes they made. But that mindset is like a person trying to hold the ashes of a fire that has gone out. The tighter you grasp, the more the ash flies away, and the hand is left with only black stains. The past cannot be changed, no matter how many nights we cry or how many years we torment ourselves. The only thing that can be changed is how we move forward from it. A mistake was not born to condemn humans forever. Sometimes it appears to teach humans to grow in a more painful way. Worry about the future is another psychological maze. Humans want to know everything in advance, want to ensure that they will not fail, not be hurt, not lose anything, but life never promises certainty. Worrying is like sitting on a rocking chair. It keeps the mind in constant motion, but does not move a person forward. There are people who have never lived a day in peace because they are always busy fearing things that have not yet happened. They lose the present to prepare for a future that might never arrive the way they imagined. The deepest thing humans need to learn is not to control everything, but to learn how to let go of what is beyond their reach. A mature mind is not a mind without sorrow or anxiety, but a mind that understands it does not need to live as their prisoner. Just as the sky does not hold on to the rain forever, humans should not hold on to emotions that are making them heavy. Forgiving oneself is not weakness. It is an act of rescuing one's own soul from the prison of the past. And stopping excessive worry is not irresponsible. It is the sobriety to understand that the future is built by today's actions, not by sleepless nights of fear. Life is actually much more fragile than humans think. One day, all the things that once obsessed us will eventually fade into memory. Instead of letting the mind get stuck between if only and what if, perhaps the most beautiful thing we can do is live fully in the present, where the heart still knows how to beat, where the eyes still see the light, and where life is still giving us the chance to start over once again. The adventure of life is to learn. The purpose of life is to grow. The nature of life is to change. The challenge of life is to overcome. The essence of life is to care. The opportunity of life is to serve. The secret of life is to dare. The spice of life is to befriend. The beauty of life is to give. William Arthur Ward. Life has never been a straight road. It is more like a vast ocean. There are days when the surface is as flat as if storms never existed, but there are also days when rough waves rise, throwing humans against their deepest limits. And then after all, what makes that journey worth it is not how far we have gone, but who we have become throughout the journey. Pain, movement, love, and awakening. Humans enter life with young souls, thinking they need to conquer the world. But the further they go, the more they realize the greatest adventure is not out there, but inside themselves. Every hurt is a lesson in empathy. Every failure is a layer of arrogant clothing being peeled away. Every loss is a time when humans understand that nothing lasts forever. Learning doesn't just come from books or success. Sometimes the deepest lessons come from lonely nights when we have to sit and face ourselves. The purpose of life is to grow. But growing doesn't mean losing one's emotions. It is when humans still keep a heart that knows how to vibrate, but no longer let emotions control their fate. It is going through betrayal without becoming cruel, going through suffering without losing faith in humanity. True maturity is a form of psychological rebirth, where the immature ego gradually breaks to make room for a deeper soul. The nature of life is change, and this is also what humans fear most. We want everything to be stable, love not to change, youth not to fade, the people we love always by our side. But life is like the 4 seasons. No season lasts forever. The suffering is not the change, but the fact that humans try to hold on to things that it is time to leave. Only when learning to let go can humans truly be free. The challenge of life is to overcome, but overcoming doesn't mean becoming invincible. The strongest people are often those who have broken the most. They don't win because they have never been in pain, but because after every fall, they still choose to stand up. Just as gold must go through fire to become pure, the human soul is also tempered through adversity. The most beautiful thing is that after all those inner battles, the essence of life lies in caring and giving. Ultimately, people don't remember each other because one was more successful than another, but because who made their heart feel healed. A word of encouragement at the right time can save a soul in despair. A kind act can become a light in someone's memory for many years. That is why the greatest opportunity of a lifetime is not just to receive, but to serve, to make the life around us a little gentler. And then, amidst all the fluctuations of time, friendship becomes that special spice that makes this journey less lonely. No one is truly strong enough to go through life alone. Humans need hands to pull them up, laughter in the middle of a tiring day, and eyes that understand them without explanation. It is those sincere connections that make life more than just existence, but an unforgettable experience. Ultimately, the greatest beauty of life lies not in how much we have kept for ourselves, but in how much light we have given while still present in this world. Because, after all, humans will also leave, but the goodness, kindness, and love they once sowed into the lives of others will continue to live on, like silent ripples spreading far and never disappearing. The one thing that you have that nobody else has is you, your voice, your mind, your story, your vision. So write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can. Neil Gaiman, there is a silent tragedy in modern life. Too many people live as copies of each other. They say things others want to hear, chase after ready-made standards, and gradually lose the true voice inside themselves. From a young age, humans are taught how to fit in, how to be right, but rarely is anyone taught how to be unique. Many souls grow up in the silence of their own selves, carrying in their hearts ideas never spoken, emotions never expressed, dreams never brave enough to begin. The existence of each person is already something irreplaceable. In this world, there may be millions of people better than you in a certain field, but there will never be another person with your very eyes to see life, with your very heart to feel the pain and joy, or with your very soul to retell the story you have walked through. Each person is like a unique musical score, created from memories, wounds, hopes, and very individual things that cannot be copied. But the sad thing is that many people spend their lives trying to be a version of someone to the point of forgetting the most special gift they were ever given themselves. Humans are always afraid of being different, afraid of being judged, afraid of not being accepted. So, they hide their creativity as if hiding something dangerous. Someone wants to write, but fears it won't be good enough. Someone wants to draw, but fears being laughed at. Someone wants to live freely, but is tied by the gaze of society. And then, over time, they gradually turn their lives into a closed room, safe but suffocating. The most painful thing is not failure, but when a human has never shown the world their true colors. Write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can. That is a call for humans to return to their most original state, because creativity is not just making art. Creativity is the way the soul breathes. A person who dares to live authentically is like a fire in the dark. They don't need to try to shine, because authenticity itself has its own attraction. When a person is brave enough to to live true to themselves, they unintentionally give others the courage to do the same. Life is too short to live as someone else's shadow. The applause will fade, the social standards will change, but the feeling of regret for never being oneself can follow a person to the very end. Don't be afraid of your difference. The very things that make you feel like you are not like anyone else are sometimes where the greatest beauty lies. In the end, what makes a person's life memorable is not how much they tried to be like others, but how much courage they had to live true to their soul. Because this world does not need another perfect copy. It needs people who dare to live with their own voice, their own heart, and the own light that only they can bring. Step out of the history that is holding you back. Step into the new story you are willing to create. Oprah Winfrey. There are people who have left a place a long time ago, but their souls are still stuck there. An old love gone, a failure many years ago, an immature version of oneself, once hurt and lost, all silently pull them back like invisible strings. They live in the present, but their eyes are always looking at the past, like a person trying to steer a boat forward while their hands still cling to the old shore. And then life becomes heavy, not because the road ahead is too difficult, but because they have never truly let go of what has ended. Humans were not born to live forever in the ashes of things that have passed. The past has a very strange psychological power. It makes people believe that what has happened will define them forever. A person who once failed begins to think of themselves as a failure. A person once betrayed begins to doubt all love. A person once looked down upon gradually lives with the feeling that they are not valuable enough. Over time, memory is no longer just memory. It becomes an invisible prison, locking humans in old limits. The most terrifying thing is that many people get used to that cage, to the point they no longer dare to imagine freedom. But life has never asked humans to stay with their old versions. Each day of existence is like a new door being opened. Only not everyone is brave enough to walk through. Because to start a new chapter, humans have to accept a painful truth. There are things that cannot be fixed, cannot be saved, and cannot be carried forever. Letting go is not betraying the past. Letting go is stopping the past from deciding your future. Look at a snake when it sheds its skin. If it keeps trying to hold on to the old skin, it won't be able to grow. Humans are the same. There are versions of us that were once necessary to survive in a certain period, but if we keep carrying them, the soul will no longer have room to grow. The most beautiful thing about a life lies not in having never made mistakes, but in the ability to be reborn after the breakdowns. A forest, after being burnt down, can still grow stronger green shoots. A heart once broken can still learn to love again. A person once lost can still find their own light. Step into the new story means allowing yourself to change, to dream again, to try again, to live without carrying the feeling of being in debt to the past. That is when humans stop asking, "Why did that happen to me?" and start asking, "Who will I become from here?" The second question is what truly opens the future. Perhaps the bravest thing is not clinging to what has been lost, but being strong enough to move forward despite not knowing what lies ahead. Because life is not a book with only one sad chapter. It always keeps blank pages, ready for those who dare to pick up the pen and write on. And sometimes, the most beautiful chapter of a person begins right after the moment they decide to leave their past behind. Love the life you live. Live the life you love. Bob Marley. There are many people who exist in this life, but have never truly lived. They wake up each morning with a tired soul, repeating the same days like a wound-up clock, going through life with eyes lacking light and a heart lacking vibration. They are always waiting for something to happen, a better tomorrow, a larger opportunity, a more perfect version of life before allowing themselves to be happy. But ironically, while waiting for the future to begin, they unintentionally miss the very life happening before their eyes. Happiness does not begin when life becomes perfect, but begins when humans learn to connect with the present with all their sincerity. Many think that loving life means always being happy, successful, or possessing everything they desire. But the truth is, no one has a perfect life. Everyone carries in their heart voids, individual pains, and silent battles the world does not see. Loving life does not mean denying the darkness. It is the ability to still see the light amidst cloudy days. It is when people can sit by the window on a sad afternoon and still feel the beauty of the wind passing through. It is when, after failures, they are still gentle enough with themselves to continue moving forward. Comparison, looking at others' lives through beautiful frames and then thinking they are falling behind. From there, they start living as if their life is just a not enough version of someone else's. But each person is created with a unique rhythm. Some flowers bloom in spring. Some flowers have to wait until late summer. If always looking at another's garden, people will forget to water their own soul. And the most painful thing is, many people do not hate their life. They are just never truly present to feel it. Live the life you love is a braver act than people think. It requires people to listen to the true voice inside them instead of just running after society's expectations. Some love peace more than fame. Some are happy with a small room, some books, and slow afternoons. Others want adventure, creativity, and living a life full of movement. There is no common template for a life worth living. The important thing is that when looking at your life, you don't feel like you are playing someone else's role. Life is like a long piece of music. If only focused on waiting for the climax, humans will miss the most beautiful, gentle melodies in between. A warm meal, the laughter of relatives, the late-day sunlight, the feeling of peace when being oneself. Sometimes, those are the moments that create the true meaning of existence. And in the end, what brings people peace is not how many things they owned, but how sincere they were to their hearts. Because a valuable life is not a life most admired by others, but a life that makes you feel grateful for living it every day.